Hello guys, and welcome back to the Rovers Report, where in today's video I will be taking you through some potential signings that I think will do well for Rovers in their League One campaign next season. Following the release of Rovers' release list, I think that almost every position can be improved upon. There's definitely certain areas such as centre-back where we definitely need players, and maybe some, for instance, centre-mid where we might be right without any more additions. But I'll be looking at players from every position, including goalkeeper. So, yeah, let me know your comments on my selections. Drop any comments down below if you think there's other players we should be looking at. And enjoy the video. If you do enjoy the video, please give it a like. Make sure you subscribe if you're not already. And let's get into it. Now, for me, the goalkeeping position is a bit of a complex one. We obviously know our number one is going to be Belshaw next season. And we know we've got a good young talent coming through in Jed Ward. It's Yakola that, for me, is a little bit tricky in terms of I don't think necessarily we can rely on him for fitness. I think he's probably on quite high wages, and I think potentially for him he might be looking to move on and get first team playing time somewhere else. So I wouldn't be too upset if we moved him on, and with that in mind I'll be looking at a recently released player from QPR called Dylan Barnes, who stands at 6'4", is 26 years old and has had not the greatest of loan spells at places like Aldershot and Yeovil, but he would come at a cheap price, I imagine. He would offer a good backup to Belshaw, and he's not that good in the sense that it would also allow Jed Ward to potentially look to be that number two. And yeah, I think he'd be a cheap option. He's played for Jamaica previously, so he's obviously got a good bit of international experience, which can only add to the squad. And this was a position that I found quite difficult to find potential targets for, as like Belshaw said before, that teams only really look for goalkeepers to be their number one, and if they are number two, you're not going to be looking to spend lots of money. So for me, Dylan Barnes offers a good option. Another potential signing for me, also released by QPR, is left-back Lee Wallace, formerly of Rangers, and who also has 10 caps to his name for Scotland. I think at 34 years old, he'd obviously add a wealth of experience to our team. He has played over 40 games in the Championship and over 100 games in the Scottish Premiership, so he's obviously got quality. And I think, yes, he might be on higher wages than we're willing to pay, but he's clearly coming to the end of his career. He has taken an interest in coaching, so we could sway him with that sort of thing. And I think similar to a Mark Hughes, which obviously didn't work out amazingly well, but at 34, he could come in and do a job for us as cover. I mean, you look there now, we've got Anderton, Trevor Clark, potentially Josh Grant if we need him. So for a great body in and around the squad, and also someone with good technical ability, I think Lee Wallace would be a good choice. Now, moving into an area in which Rovers definitely need to make some signings is the centre-back, where Connor Taylor and James Connolly have returned to their parent clubs and potentially won't return to us. We definitely need to make some acquisitions. And the first one for me, which is granted quite ambitious, is Che Dunkley, formerly of Sheffield Wednesday. Now, Che Dunkley is a very strong and powerful centre-back, and he has played the majority of his career at Championship and League One level. So I think he would clearly be a good addition to the team. He brings experience. Like I said, he's strong. I think he'd be one of those commanding type centre-backs that we could put at the back of our team, and he would dominate. The only issue for me, I think, is he played quite a few games with Sheffield Wednesday this season, and they obviously nearly got promoted. So he might be tempted to stay around that sort of high-end League One. We would maybe be a bit of a gamble for him, but I think that would be the sort of statement signing that would really look to push us up the League One table. And you know, we've signed players like Glenn Whelan before, who have obviously had high pedigree. So I wouldn't say it's out of the question. This would be a great signing, but like I said, probably one that won't happen. But yeah, a very, very good potential signing. Now, moving from a fairly experienced defender in League One to someone with very little experience but looks to be a very promising player, and that is Dynel Semeyu from Southampton, who last season spent his season on loan at Carlisle United, playing 21 games, and by all accounts he had a fantastic season for them. Now, this is one of those sort of players which is a bit of a gamble, and you know, he obviously did well in League Two, but who's to say he can make that step up to League One? But I think alongside an experienced defender, someone like Che Dunkley, this could turn out to be a great signing. And we know Rovers have had success in this loan market with Connolly and Taylor, both coming from clubs below Southampton. and doing extremely well. So, I mean, they rate him at Southampton. They've tied him down to a 3-year deal. Carlisle fans raved about him, and I think he could definitely make the step up, and if not necessarily be a massive player in our team, at least add to the squad depth and be, a good player. Our final centre-back for me is a player released from Barnsley lately, and that is Ole Helm, who is a Finnish under-21 international. He stands at 6'5" and is over 100 kilograms, so he is a very, very strong and powerful defender. He has made over 50 appearances in the Championship, and at 23, I think he's quite a good age. You know, I think he'd probably come us for a relatively low wage, and the fact that he's played 50 games in the Championship proves that he's obviously got good ability. So League One for him should be, if not a bit below his level, then definitely his level. And I think it's one of those sort of signings that people are not necessarily sure who he is, but to play 50 games in the Championship means he must be a decent player. And I think it's definitely someone Barton should be looking at. Now, moving on to the centre midfield position, and the first one for me is someone who I know a lot of Rovers fans have been crying out for a defensive midfielder, and this player isn't necessarily that, but he's got a lot of quality. He's been promoted 3 times from the League One, and he scores some unbelievable strikes. And that player is Harry Chapman, recently released from Blackburn Rovers. He has previously played at Shrewsbury. He's a very skillful player. Like I said, he's got a great shot on him, and he's in a similar sort of ilk to Anthony Evans, but I would say he's obviously a lot smaller, and he's probably a little bit quicker. But this is the type of player that's great on the ball, would really fit into Barton's team, and would just add another quality player into that mix. I think it will probably be a difficult one to get over the line, but again, we've got to be ambitious with these signings, and I think he'd be a great choice. Now, I know a lot of Rovers fans were upset at the departure of Glenn Whelan, and I wasn't too surprised to see him go, but I do think we need to replace him, and this player certainly has similar Premier League experience to him, and at 35, is probably coming towards the end of his career. I think possibly it might be out of our budget, but, you know, we signed Glenn Whelan, and I think this player certainly won't be playing in the Championship next season, and that is Tom Huddleston, who has recently been released. I think if we could manage to sign him, it would be another great bit of experience in the dressing room, and he still has great quality, Tom Huddleston. I think if you were offered this player, most Rovers fans would take him. It's just whether we'll be able to afford his wages and whether he'd see coming to Rovers as too much of a step down. But like I said, we managed to sign Glenn Whelan, so it is possible. And the final centre midfielder for me is Sam Hutchinson, who has just been released by Sheffield Wednesday. Now, again, this is a fairly ambitious signing, as he has got over 150 games in the Championship for Wednesday. He played 20 last year in League One, but the fact that they've released him means that he probably wouldn't go any higher than League One. And what's to say Joey Barton sells him the dream that Rovers are going to be pushing to get into those playoffs or those automatics. I think he'd be an unbelievable signing. He's proved himself that he's got great quality, and he can play centre mid or centre back, which is a great asset to the team. Barton seems to like those sort of players that can do multiple positions, you know, your Josh Grants, your Nick Andertons. So I think he'd be an invaluable asset to us. Whether we can get him or not is a different question, but I think if the opportunity's there to sign him, we have to take it, even if it means spending a bit more money. This is the sort of player that can take you from a mid-table team to a team that's looking to push on for promotion. And moving into the attackers, we will start with a player that has been very heavily featured in the press, and that is Tyler Walker. I think this would be a bit of a gamble as a signing. I mean, he's had one good season in League Two with Mansfield, where he scored over 20 goals. Then he had a good season at Lincoln, scoring 14, but he's faced quite a few injuries in his career. He's not too young, and I think he'd probably come at quite an expensive price. With that being said, I think he would fit into the style of Rovers play very well. I think former Stevenage manager has described him as having clean feet and being one of the paciest strikers around. So that would definitely fit in with our quick style of play. I think depending on how much we can get him for, it would be a good signing. But potentially there's better options out there, and I think this is one of those signings where, you know, sort of Johnson, Clark, Harris, he's bounced around to a few clubs, done well at some, done well at others. So, yeah, it'll be a bit of a 50-50 as to whether he performed well at us. But potentially it could be a good signing. And the final striker for me that I think we should go all out to try and sign is Tom Eaves, who has recently been released by Hull City. Eaves has previously had a spell at Rovers and did very well. So, I mean, it was 7 or 8 years ago, so I'm not saying that it would help too much, but he's obviously familiar with the area. I also think this is exactly the sort of player that would complement Aaron Collins. He's a tall, physical, hold-up striker. I think he's basically an upgrade on Ryan Loft. So what that does for Loft's perspectives at Rovers, I'm not sure. But he's played the majority of his career in League One and the Championship. So he obviously has good quality. I think Tom Eaves would, again, similar to Che Dunkley, be a sort of statement signing that would say to the teams around us, look, we're looking to move up this division. We're not here to just partake and make up the numbers. I think Eaves might be expensive, but you've got to pay the big bucks for the strikers, and he's the type of player that could score 20 goals for us this season, and come August we could be going, he is the reason why we've gone up. So I think definitely Barton should be having a look at Eaves. So there you have it, guys. Those are some of my potential signings that I would be looking to make for next season. I did consider other players. You know, I looked at the likes of Jody Jones, Matt Butcher, Alex Baptiste, but there was only so many I could fit in the video. I'll be really interested to see who you think we should sign, so please do let me know in the comments below. I will definitely have missed some players. The amount of players in the EFL is extensive, so I couldn't cover them all. If you think I've had a shocker and missed an obvious one, let me know. I'll be happy to hear about it. And I hope you enjoyed the video, guys. I will see you for the next one. Have a great evening and look after yourself. Up the gas.